Right, here with Pete again. Iron sequencing ideas, Pete. So if I hit an iron here, how can I sequence my iron golf swing to try and get some level of consistency in my strike between different clubs and different lofts? Little push, but the strike was there. What can golfers do to try and improve their sequencing and get rid of some of these kind of funky moves that we see? Let's see what Pete's got to say. So iron sequencing, Pete, I mean, it's something that I've always worked on with students without really calling it this, as in I would never say we're going to work on your sequencing, but I would see a swing and think, okay, you've like just picked it up with the arms and then you kind of put some wrist hinge in and then you kind of stood up because you think that's a backswing, and I'm thinking, how can I get that sequence to be a little bit more natural just for people watching? So a basic idea of an iron swing sequence, I don't know if you feel the same with your students. Head, hands, body, club, arms for the certainly first stages. I'm almost syncing them together to move away. It's like a joint unity. Yeah. And I like to see a little bit of in with a little bit of up and in. So what I mean by that, the head's out in front of me, so I want it to come back to around level with me. That's coming with my body. Then as it goes up, my body's just going to turn it over right shoulder. That's kind of my basic sequence, and I'm not talking measured what goes first, which we could get more in depth with. These are feel-based ideas.
Golf course feels.
What I feel. What are some of the pitfalls with iron sequencing that you see with students day in, day out?
Day in, day out, it's a modern term, isn't it? I want to be shallow into this golf ball.
Yeah.
As long as I'm shallow, I'm going to be a better golfer for it. So you see straight away, we talked about maybe body, handle, golf club sort of working together at the same rate, sequence, everything working, nothing out racing anything. So if the club head works early, handle out.
Yeah.
If you try and get everything together and everyone talks about I want to be shallow, what you'll often see is too much turn. So maybe handle getting too far behind somebody. Now that can cause low point controls, body reacts, we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and a lot of my clients will see this, and some of the social media stuff I put out there is about trying to keep this connection sequenced together. So sort of working up together, maybe not being so deep, starting collectively to get the golf club much more in front of the body, so everything can sort of line up together at the bottom, subject to what club face control you need at the bottom to the shot shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
But definitely trying to get away from this idea as I must be super shallow, must be super from the inside, hit a shot is got to be removed from the instruction, in my opinion. I think it's got to be much more in front of you. Yeah,
okay. So what's it, I like that. If I pop you just there, what's interesting, I think, with that idea, so you're saying there about people trying to get more this way on the downswing.
Or maybe even trying to create too much depth going back.
Yeah, and it's almost like they try to do that on the backswing, isn't it, sometimes? So as in, like you say, they're literally going, right, I've got to get, like, from around here. Yeah. And those, like you say, you're either, like, bottoming out early here, or we see the big old redirect. I mean, but the flip side to that as well is you do see plenty of people standing the club up, so there is like a sweet spot somewhere in between that's going to help people.
Well, you got to get instruction with a professional to notice what's going on with you. We're talking about the opposite ends of the spectrum that we see on a day-to-day basis, really. But just trying to keep everything together would be a great way to start.
So, I mean, a couple of ideas that people can do to improve, say, their iron sequencing. So what I mean by that is getting, say, the movements that if you think about it, you're going to be moving your body, so you're going to be rotating it, bending it, and side bending it. There's a combination of those movements that's going to hopefully get that club up above your head. You're going to be moving your arms. Yeah. They're moving this way, they're bending, and they're going every way, and you've got to sync that with your body. And then at the same time, those movements are going to be influencing the club as well. So how can we get some kind of level of sequence so people can get to the range and hit a better shot? One thing I like to do with students is I like to see a few practice swings where they start with the club out in front of them and get everything moving into that backswing with a nice pull of the arms and the body to pull it back. Because what that tends to do, I find, is that if you're someone from here who wants to kind of give it this movement, get it too far this way, the momentum of pulling that club back gets everything sinking a little bit better in first parallel. But also what it does is it gives them a bit of a run up to kind of get the arms pulling away first, and then the body gets in, so it syncs up more down here.
Gives them more time.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a good thing for people to practice. Club in front of them, pull it back, and then come through and hit. I mean, I remember hitting shots like that as a kid in practice in nets. So starting there, you can actually on a range hit some shots like that. And I would get that for people warming up. So when people come for lessons and I know that they're going to get a little bit, I call it robotronic, whoa, whoa.
Position based. I'm trying to hit P6.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing everything I can to loosen them up.
Yeah.
And they hated it because it was so anti what their mind thought, but you would get them loosened up so quick. Just the ball, club over the ball, pull it back and just hit shots. You can hit fats and fins and horrible shots to start, but you'll get it and you'll start getting your body basically loosening up. What about instigating it a bit more through the ground? You said earlier about trying to get people maybe to be a little less static.
Yeah, I mean, one of the...
I see that for definite.
All the time you see somebody, and especially with the people that are trying to improve, right? You say, right, okay, well, my ball position's in the right spot. I'm going through this mental rehab of checklist in my mind of there's 7 things I've got to do.
Paralyzes them.
Yeah, to hit this ball over there, which
Yeah.
I can do anyway, but to do it slightly better, I've got to think about 100 different things.
Yeah.
So they're setting up and they're going, he said handle forward, he said pressure here, this, and I'm doing, and then they'll stand there for about a second or two and it'll just be freeze.
Yeah. It's almost like you can hear the cogs turning, can't you? It's like they're grinding to a halt.
You sort of on the sidelines going, well, let's change that. Well, what I would prefer to see relative to good iron shots is it to be emotion. The golf swing's emotion, right?
Yeah.
You said bring the golf club together, everyone's moving. I sound silly. I know we talk about good posture, good stance, good everything, but allowing the body to breathe or move just before you hit it, maybe
Like
it's
that.
foot pressure, maybe if I'm moving from left to right, and maybe using my pressure to move the golf club into position or into a flow,
Yeah.
sort of shifting pressure, or even maybe a little waggle, nothing too static.
Yeah.
Very rare you'll see a good player being static over the golf ball, because now you've got to do something, jerk it to get away.
One exception, or there's a few exceptions, but Lee Westwood's, and
Yeah.
when I played with Lee, I was literally like, I was a part of me sometimes I wanted to go, is he, because he literally freezes. I wanted to like go, hello? And I didn't, because he's obviously way better than me and would whip my ass every time we played. But he was amazingly counter the natural, because I agree with you there. I think you do see a lot of people paralysed. Great little drill I do with students, if I pop you there, to get in a little bit of freedom, because it's quite interesting, isn't it? Before I show you the drill, you can tell a good player in their waggle. I would put a guess out there 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I'm going to do a better player's waggle, right? So you see a lot of this. See how loose I am with everything I'm touching the club and directioning and moving of the club, okay?
Yeah.
So you get these nice little kind of twirls and twists and little actions and neatly put back, those kind of things. Not so good player's waggle.
And no perception of
But
target.
What is that one?
Open face.
Like, I am not going to be literally. So loosening up a little bit is so good, and a great drill I use to try and get loosen people up, if this one's not working, is a little bit of right foot up at the start. So
Yeah.
right foot, so then slam it down, lead foot up, and then lead foot down, trail foot up. So actually starting this way and giving it a little bit of this to get them the feeling of this action, beginning that sequence a little bit more, and it loosens them up. Again, people hate it at the start. They hit some crazy ones because it's so counter.
And
but
people then step away from it. They're like, well, that's not making me better.
Yeah,
but actually just...
if you just give it a few
Yeah.
shots, they really start to loosen up, and we start to see much better dynamic impact positions. Because that's what happens. If you think about my impact position is basically like this.
Yeah,
It's
explosive.
dynamic. I am pushing and really using that ground and moving away from it with twists and turns. Your average not so good a striker, and the sequencing gets a bit wrong. It's a very undynamic impact position because they're paralysed. The
Yeah, I
more
get
we
it.
can get this starting to move and jump, striking just goes crazy
I
often.
couldn't agree more. I get a lot of students that are maybe bottled up with a lot of swing thoughts. The first thing I'll do is, okay, well, let's set up with the golf ball relatively close together, feet relatively close together as well, and I'll just go club back first, then right foot, and then left foot.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now they're thinking more about sequence than a position. They're like, okay, well, my right foot halfway back, left foot. Okay, well, now I'm starting to move, waiting around, I'm turning. Takes it away from, I've got to hit this position.
Yes.
It's a flow, right? You just got to be able to move that club around your body in an action that finds somewhere near where
And
you
it
want
makes it a swing, doesn't it? An
Yeah.
actual swing again, rather than hitting P1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and open everything else falls into place, because it definitely can be over taught. So a little bit of freedom in there in your waggles, a little bit of freedom there in how you start club forward, I think is a great way, and a little bit of freedom, like you said, a good shuffle.
Yeah.
I've got my Swing Catalyst force plate, and I'm hilariously 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. Before I start, I'm lead foot, trail foot, lead foot. I'm really going like this, getting ready to basically
Look at Carl Berkshire
go.
now with, you know, I mean, it's almost their preempt to
Yes.
any excess power, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
and it doesn't just have to be related to power. I think it relates to low point. It relates
Yeah.
to how dynamic you are at getting everything into a striking position, basically. Yeah, I like that. Little bit of sequencing. Definitely, it's more. I find it's a more case of trying to loosen people up rather than the other way around, where golf coaching often and what people think it's more about tightening stuff up, they think. Where there's a certain element of like, let's tighten up your wrist angle, it's actually getting you to tighten them up and loosen them up at the same time.
very rarely would it be based on connection or arms across, you know, towel drills.
Yeah,
Very rarely would I ever implement that now.
Yeah,
It's about
yeah.
freeing them up here so they
Yeah.
can hit a shot.
Yeah, and getting some sequencing. I'm
Let's
going
see
to hit
one
your
more.
Callaway ball again,
I go straight.
because they went straight off the tee in the last one. Can I hit the green with it, you reckon?
I think
Look how
so.
much I move. Like, I'm a proper shuffler.
You do like to dance, don't you? Before I came here today, I was practicing that move.
Yeah. It's hilarious. I mean, since having the camera, my mouth moves loads more, but I would normally, all these thoughts that are going in my head, they would be in there, not coming out here. But I'm a proper shuffler. Waggle, shuffle, back and forward
Go
to
on.
then go. Oh, look at that.
Stop it. That could go in.
That could go in.
Is that in?
A bit long.
s-
That was over the
Flushed.
flat. Come on.